do Sci-Fi. Busy daddies do Sci-Fi. Busy daddies do Sci-Fi. Busy daddies do Sci-Fi.
What? Oh.
What do you mean,
timer?
What?
I mean,
Talk
well,
to me
what?
like that? That's fucking rude, man.
You just
What?
point.
Oh, pointing's
you
rude
point.
now?
You point with your mouth full of ice cream.
What?
We did the Planet of the Apes podcast like a month ago.
Planet Gay Bear.
Fire bad.
That's Frank.
That's Frank.
Stein.
And Stein.
Yeah.
Who is not it's not the monster's name.
No.
Frankenstein.
Mm-mm. That's the monster's brother.
No.
Well?
No, it's his father, I guess. Dr. Frankenstein, Victor.
If you had to be technical.
You did they ever
Victor
give the monster a name? It's just the monster.
Chappie.
No, come on. Not Chappie, that's the delightful robot from Short Circuit.
Yeah. Who was born with a little chappie.
Who was born with a chip on his shoulder. Bright-eyed optimistic. Oh boy. You know, sometimes, Kevin, I sit and I just think about life.
Do you?
I do.
Oh, yeah.
I do, and all the endless possibilities that unfold.
You could use the word perambulations.
I would love to use that word. Did you make it up?
No.
Preambulations?
It actually could be wrong. I think it's just a fancy word for walking.
So then you did make it up.
But you were talking about life, George.
I did not make that word up, though it may not exist. I was talking about life and... Oh, man.
Well, speaking of not existing.
Unfolding the endless possibilities, like endless drops of rain.
Like yarn being pulled from a sweater.
Just like that sounds sexy, actually.
Sounds like I need a new sweater.
Speaking of sexy, Jared Leto.
Weird.
Yeah.
Jared Leto looks like a woman we grew up with named Donna White.
Now,
Dirty Donna Brown,
here's the thing.
as we called her.
Here's the thing about
Donna White.
Donna White. Here's the thing about Donna White. Let me tell you a few things about Donna White.
You can add anything to that.
Okay, Donna White is a no good. Anyway, Jared Leto is one of those guys who I tend to write off completely as like that guy sucks, man. He and then I see something that he's done, and I'm like, okay, I got you. All right, Jared, you're back in my good graces. And everything.
And
but
this was it.
Well,
he
we're not.
was not the. Well, what is it? We don't even know.
We don't even know what this is.
You're just
yet.
talking about Jared Leto,
But I'm just
aren't
talking
you?
about Jared Leto in general.
Yeah, of course.
You know, he was in the Mark David Chapman movie. He played
Little Chappie.
He lived Mark David Chappie. He played that adorable robot in Short Circuit. Mark David Chapman. But
Voiced by Jared Leto.
Then he does like the Joker. And all these weird stories come out about shit he did to try and be in the character of the Joker. And I'm like, all right, give it up, Jared. Come on, man. And then, something like this comes along. And I really enjoyed him in this movie.
Weren't you just talking about life?
Was I?
No.
Was I, Kevin? Are any of us talking about anything at any time or place?
No. As a matter of fact, I'm not going to go home tonight. I'm going to drive just somewhere else.
You can stay here if you'd like.
That's not part of my plan.
Although it's possible that in all the infinite, not possible, it's likely that in all the infinite timelines, there is a version of you that does exactly what you're going to say. You're going to get in your car and you're going to drive to some other place. One of you might stay here tonight. Another one of you might go home. Another one of you is going to go home and step on a Lego. Man,
Lego.
It's exhausting, all these different possibilities. You know the one person that all these different universes have in common?
No.
Nobody.
Nobody,
Kevin.
I get it.
Do you?
Yeah.
I don't know if you do.
Yeah.
Who are we?
Well, I don't know.
Exactly.
Well, we're boy deciding dreary, shitty fragments.
That doesn't sound right. That sounds negative.
It sounds fecal.
It sounds very fecal. Boy deciding dreary, shitty fragments. BDDSF. Okay, no, you're right. That is who we are. BDDSF. So, nobody. A gentleman nobody.
But Mr. Nobody?
It's a little formal. Maybe he went to medical school. Doctor Nobody?
When? Yeah.
Last night.
When does he get the name Mr. Nobody?
Good question. Nemo Nobody.
Right.
Not his real name. Right?
Yeah. Not Donnie? Darko Nobody?
No. That was a different guy. Looks kind of like Jared Leto. So, we're talking about
Justin
Mr. Nobody.
Timberlake?
No. Nobody.
No.
So, talking about the movie Mr. Nobody, directed by Jaco van Doorbell. Doorbell. Yeah. Ding, dong. Yeah. Who's there? Nobody. I'm going to do this the whole time.
Yes.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah. Do you remember how Odysseus escapes the Cyclops?
He throws he's got a sling and he kills, oh no, that's David and Goliath.
Yeah. At least you could say no, man. You don't have to make up an answer.
Hold on. I do know.
Oh, do you?
Yes. The Cyclops is about to eat Gretel, and then Odysseus pushes him in the oven.
Yes.
And that's how, and then they run back.
Mm-hmm. And that's how we have wonderful...
how does Odysseus kill the Cyclops, Kevin?
He tricks him by saying his name is Nobody. And then so the Cyclops runs outside and yells at another Cyclops that someone's there in his cave with him. And he's blinded him. And he says, who ran into your cave? And he goes, nobody. And he goes, you're fucking nuts, man. And then Odysseus tricks him and gets away.
So this Cyclops really wasn't big on context or explaining his situation. So he just goes, nobody.
Yeah, he said no. And he was big on specifics.
Mm-hmm.
So every time his buddy said, who? He went, nobody! He's right here! And they went, man, you need to start eating bushes. Stop eating those bushes of berries, man.
Cyclops number 2, what I'm trying to explain to you is there was a man in my cave who went by the name of Nobody. This whole thing could have been solved and Odysseus would have been torn to pieces.
Mm-hmm.
See, this is the problem with Greeks. Stupid mythology. Terrible.
Yes.
Okay?
Let's get back to science.
Let's get back to science and religion and love and life.
A little too much love.
No such thing.
Slow down.
No such thing as too much love.
Down.
Why? Because here, I got a challenge for you, Kevin.
Okay.
Set up the world. Now here comes the sting. Bum, bum, bum. There's a lot of that. There was a lot of that. That whole...
What?
The orchestral, the underscore was really prominent in this movie. There was a lot of
I didn't notice it.
I didn't notice it.
So
smacks you in the face.
I like this movie, but I don't like it.
Hold on, can you repeat that?
I like this movie, but I don't like it.
All right, yeah, that's what I thought you said.
Yeah, This is a guy who is. We see a story of him growing up in a family. And then we see him, it's Jared Leto, in many different forms. And he's popping through the universe and showing up at different times with different families. He's coming to and saying the name of the wrong woman in front of him. And he has... become unstuck in time, which is a Kurt Vonnegut reference. I mean, that's about it. That's all you really need to know. So he
Yeah.
jogs through 3 marriages.
So here's one thing. I actually don't want to do what we usually do. And I don't want to fully spoil. We're going to talk about this movie. And there's no huge twist or anything.
Why don't you tell the listener why you don't want to...
All right.
Are you hoping they cry also?
I'm going to paint the picture of what happens last night.
Yeah.
All right. Originally, we were going to talk about the sequel to the movie Man from Earth. Man from Earth, if you haven't seen it, is kind of delightful. It's not fantastic, but it's a decent little cult film about a 14,000-year-old caveman. Somebody at some point said, you know what needs a sequel? That movie Man from Earth.
Well, the man who wrote it. If you read his IMDb, I didn't know they could list infomercials in your IMDb. But somewhere down there...
I didn't get that far down the rabbit hole, but that's...
Yeah, no, because I was kind of like, who's signing off on this shit?
So what they... So we're like, you know what? Hey, they made a sequel called Man from Earth Holocene. Kevin, it's our duty to check this movie out. I watched it. I watched it on a Sunday night, and they took the first movie. Had 10 years later, all of a sudden the caveman is like, oh shit, I'm getting older, and they just transmuted the entire plot into, instead of like a group of his friends who were college professors who are figuring out if this guy is 14,000 years old, let's make it a group of college students who stumble on a book that one of the doctors from the first movie wrote called The Man from Earth, and figure out, hey, this guy's a 14,000-year-old caveman. Let's talk to him over the course of a night. It's the same fucking movie. Same movie. I was waiting for like all the kids to pull their masks off and have them be the professors again. And so I watched it, and I texted Kevin just, oof. And we decided we can't do that. So it came down to it. Here's the list of what we got on Netflix. What do we think? I said Mr. Nobody, and we took the ride with Mr. Nobody. So let's shoot to last night around 9:30. I am finishing... more like 11:30 p.m. I am in the last 10 minutes of Mr. Nobody. My wife walks through the door. She's working very late and finds me sobbing. Sobbing in front of the iPad. Because for some reason, I didn't watch it on the TV. I decided to draw and watch it on an iPad. Finds me crying. I look up and see that she's concerned. And I go, I'm trying to explain what happened. I'm like, we watched a movie and it wasn't any good, so we're watching this one instead. And it's so good. It's so good. She said it's really good, like in a how you might like stroke a 5-year-old's head. It's a really
or talk to an idiot who's drunk.
It's a really good movie. Yeah. It's really important, honey, is what I said. And I believe that. I do believe.
So this is going to be a great podcast.
I do believe this is an important movie. I had an experience with this movie that I don't have often. And I think that it hinges a lot on me being just a little bit more open-minded, a little bit more...
I think you're having your man cycle.
It's possible that that's happened. Wait a minute, what is today's date? Oh my God, I'm actually late.
Is that what that purple dot on the calendar is?
Yeah. Oh boy.
That means you're magnet.
Oh,
magnet?
Boy. I'm late. I'm magnet. So, well, that's going to be a conversation. Yeah. Anyway, but
here come the waterworks.
Thankfully, we live in a welfare state. Who? But I thought this movie was great. I thought this movie was great. I enjoyed the hell out of it, and I would.
Why was it great?
I would sum it up in everything that I felt like this movie did wrong was part of the overall narrative. I thought the fact that it, first of all, science fiction usually tells a story involving like a limited number of themes. Themes of like exploration, humanity is generally like a big theme in science fiction. But it's always kind of broad, and it's always kind of like, not they don't get time down to the nitty gritty. So every once in a while we get delivered a movie that is able to kind of encapsulate a ton of different themes. This movie handles like love, it handles choice, control, lack of control, all through the filter of this man who we don't really, even by the end of the movie, know what exactly is going on with him. We're given a couple different, some pretty legitimate. At one point, he even states, this is what's going on here. And I thought the movie did such a good job executing the story that I didn't even believe it, because it's coming from what is completely a non-reliable narrator, who is Nemo Nobody, the main character of this movie, played by Jared Leto, in multiple ages, throughout multiple existences, multiple marriages, multiple lives, multiple deaths. And more important than anything else is, and this was why I got so emotional, was that this movie deals with the vitality of human experiences. That every single moment is vital, important, and no less than any other moment. And I thought it presented that in such a cool science fiction way, like just it was delivered in such a broad, such a cool way that I loved it, man. I loved it. And I thought that it was concise at the same time and still open-ended. Like, I thought it did a great job of like walking this weird line between like, I am this, oh but wait, I'm not. I'm actually this. Oh, you know what? Everything that you just thought, actually it's this. And then by the end of the movie, I'm like, it's pretty much just left up to us. Like, we can buy the solution that he gives us, that this entire thing is actually just a scenario being developed by a 9-year-old boy who was asked to make a decision between, do you want to live with your mother or do you want to live with your father? And this 9-year-old boy playing out all the different scenarios in the course of a minute as he's trying to run either to his mother on the train or look back on his father. We can buy that and still have it be satisfying. Or you can go, oh no, this is a man who has literally become unstuck in time due to the mechanisms of the universe and the fact that we've reached a point in the expansion of the universe where now it's stopped and is going to start contracting.
In what they call the big crunch.
The big crunch. And we actually get to see...
The anti-bang.
Yeah.
Anti-bang. Story of my life.
The little bang.
Yeah. Story of my life.
So everything, like the fact that it was convoluted and it was meandering, I thought was a result of intention. I thought it was like... There was no flaw in this movie. And that's what got to me. So by the end of it, when it's him and Anna and they're skipping rocks, I was a mess. Yeah.
Yeah?
Yeah, and I loved it.
I mean, that's great. That's great. It was a little cheaper at times to me. I'm trying to remember why I think this wasn't fresh.
Well,
what do I know in movies?
There were familiarities.
Or stories that made me just... I don't know.
Well, the idea of a man living multiple lives, especially when you've got like played by the same actor. We talked about Cloud Atlas.
Right.
And what was interesting is that you said Nora mentioned that, and you had already thought that.
And but I've not seen Cloud Atlas.
Haven't even seen Cloud
I was
Atlas,
like, isn't this what is reported about Cloud Atlas?
And
Nora just went, well, it's the quantum thing.
Yeah. And see, that I liked. I liked that they, one of his lives is he's a host of a television show that deals with like, almost like,
he's a Neil deGrasse Tyson.
It deals with like like Cosmos on a like edgier level, and a lot of it he talks about string theory and things that are sort of like this is outside of our control. all this stuff. This is all just happening. We are kind of just along for the ride. And then to counterbalance it, it's like, no, we have a ton of control over our life. And that's sort of his delusion. His delusion is, so long as I don't make up my mind, I have all these possibilities. Yeah.
Well, so I saw a movie where he hops from one body to another woman, to another scene where he wakes up and calls the woman by the other name, to saying the wrong kid's name. Yeah. And so I'm in a more literal sense here.
And also,
so
did you notice like he has a British accent every once in a while too? Like, they go so far as to, like, in some of the scenarios, even some of the same ones, he has a British accent, and in others he doesn't. You know, like,
yeah.
And there's a constant playfulness with like the scene when he his car flies into the lake.
Yeah.
You know, right before that, he almost hits a guy on a bike, and doesn't hit that guy on a bike. Kind of waves and goes, sorry about that. And instead, a bird hits his window. He flies into the lake as a result of a car accident. It kept providing us with these little moments where you could just sort of branch off on your own and go, okay, so in another reality, he hit that guy on the bike and had to explain, like, you know, oh my gosh, I'm so sorry. And that bird never hit his windshield. So he never found a... And that was kind of what I loved about it, was that it kept on presenting, like, you could go everywhere with this.
Well, but then what happened is there was actually one man who's sitting in a bed, and he's 118 years old, and it's Jared Leto in costume, and we see him with his psychiatrist or psychologist trying to get him to remember, and he hypnotizes him. Yeah. And this kind of triggers the meat of the reminiscing, or the exposure of the lives, but we've already seen Mr. Nobody remember some things before the hypnotism. So I was sitting there going, it didn't say who this man was, and I felt like he knew who he was the whole time.
Yeah.
Which is to say, there's a kid who sneaks in and interviews him in his hospital room, and this is in the future. We're in 2092.
2092. He's the last, and there's a frame to this entire, for lack of a better word, this meandering story. The framework is that Nemo Nobody is the last mortal,
because we've gone quasi-mortal.
Yes.
Which is there's a term for it in the book Sapiens. It's called amoral. Immortal. I'm sorry, immortal. Yeah. So that we can regenerate cells and everything, but it doesn't mean you won't get hit by a train. So you're not immortal, but we can become immortal. That was interesting that they talked about that stuff. But still, so this kid interviews him, and you watch the kid go, so did the wife die or didn't she? It's not possible that you're dead. And he gets a little stumped, and it's a little trying, but I didn't believe that Mr. Nobody could be all those things without something more to him. So he's left instructions for himself to live to a certain day, which makes him 118. So this will to live kicks in him, because time is going to reverse, the arrow of time. On a side note, I have about 30 pages written on an arrow of time reversal story. And how
long have you been working on that?
I hadn't worked on it in a while. I worked on that in the early 2000s.
All right, so that brings us back to our Write a Sci-Fi challenge.
Yeah, but so I was intrigued by the reversal, and this man has left himself clues. Live this long, and then time comes springing back. And then so I'm going, so what happens? Are you such a voyeur that you just want to go backwards to the point when you're 9 to make the right decision?
Well, I took that as everything is now going to, and this is, again, I felt like this was more of a vehicle for these themes than it was a linear story.
And I feel that failed me.
But I mean, I felt
because I think there's a place where that worked.
Is now we are going. All these realities are collapsing. So we start to see his parents reunited. We start to see him and Anna are together.
Yeah.
Again, we start to see the collapsing into one life. Whether it's forward or backward at this point is meaningless.
But no, it means, you've lived long enough to go back into an embryo.
But it's the first time he's experiencing it. Because he has not experienced one linear life. He's in a universe that he does not exist in. He has been a voyeur to endless amounts.
Well, so he's gonna re-voyeur all the way back.
But he's gonna live one life, all the way back. It's going there. It's all condensing. It's all crunching together now.
But so he'll have 3 lives?
No, he'll have one. He'll have Anna.
How do you know?
That's my own interpretation of what we're.
Well, then that's what I'm saying. So that's whereas you seem to be cool with letting it be a meditation. It didn't latch into me like that because I was like, "What are you doing here, man? Like what? So what?" Is what I got, and so there were parts in it that I enjoyed. I also kept saying to myself, why would a man who was unstuck in time be victim to such calamity and loss? I mean, this dude. A
lot of bad shit happens,
and that is a bullshit stunt, if you ask me.
Yeah.
I don't know, and it makes me think it's if the director wants to examine it like this, then what's the fucking point, man? The guy would probably say something, but it kind of Requiem for a Dream to me. It was just fucking Bummerville.
Well, what you're referring to, his, because in one where his wife dies, we see Elise die in one of them, but we're treated to his life with Elise alive, and which is fucking worse. I mean, his, her dying in the car, or him living a shell of an existence with a wife who is a lunatic.
And so again, I don't believe Mr. Nobody at 118 years old is like, it was amazing. There was so much misfortune that man experienced.
Yeah.
And so what does that say about the God of time or our existence? I hope I don't experience shit like that on that frequency in one life. I mean, this dude has a tanker blow up in traffic in front of him and kills his wife at his marriage. That same quantum universe, that marriage, she's a schizo. The woman he fell in love with as a teenager, at one fork in the road, dies on the streets, a junkie.
That is not her.
That is her.
That's not her. No, that's not Anna.
It isn't.
No.
It doesn't. It's not her with short hair.
Nope.
How do you know?
Because that's how he ends up. That's how he ends up seeing Anna again. Is that he takes care of this girl in that universe? I thought the same thing. It's not her. I went back and looked.
Okay. And then so they're junkies that are dying. He's dying in a car crash. He's drowning, or maybe not. We also get to see that he can decide, and I did like this, when shit went bad, let's see, he hits a fucking leaf and fucking comatizes himself.
Yeah.
And then he keeps flashing back to the coma. He writes a love letter to a girl who scorns him. He should have never got with her anyways.
So
he gets separated from his other lover because the parents don't want them being together.
Also, in that scene when they show Elise has left him,
and she cuts his hair.
Is that his hair?
Yes.
Is that the dude?
Yes.
I couldn't figure that out. She's looking at. I love that scene.
Which is why I don't. I mean, I didn't go back and look at that, but I was not attracted to what this man had. And it did not make the concept that these people put out there attractive to me. I was like, this is bleak.
Life,
You're
it
fucked.
happens though. Like, right? I mean, it's like,
But so
it's in spite of that. You know, that's what I loved about it. It was, yeah, there was a lot of bad shit that happened in spite of all that. At the end of his life, as he knows, either he's about to make it this next minute, which has been predicted in one of these timelines that he's 1 minute away from the big crunch happening, and they're even vague about that. Either he knows he's going to make it, or he's not, or he's going to die before it happens, and then who knows what the fuck, that he can on his deathbed say that today is the greatest day of my life. You know?
Why was it the greatest day of his life?
Because it was. Because he was there.
You're doing too much work.
I don't agree with that
movie.
at all.
I'm telling you, it's okay, but because it took you there.
I think it worked.
It took you
I
for the
would
ride.
say
You
it
know
worked
how we
on
love the
me.
word meditation.
Yeah,
a meditative
I never
movie in
used
this
that
podcast.
word. You just used that word.
Well, I mean, this
but
is what you're doing.
I think that I think this movie did the work for me. I don't think that I'm jumping over any hurdles in order to have an emotional response to this movie.
We should clarify that it probably didn't cost you much energy to do the work. The calories weren't.
Well,
burned,
I have
the
a
movie
general.
has to do the work for you.
Well, yeah, but I just have an
because it
issue with you
exists.
saying I have an issue with you saying I'm working harder than I would for a movie that was good on its own.
You've heard me say in this podcast
Uh-huh.
that like a thing will just trigger me and let me like draw stuff with it.
Yeah.
And that's all you did. I personally didn't get sprung like that. And you and I go down this rabbit hole, and it's not necessary to go down it, but
So you didn't.
whatever
you
standard
didn't
there
do
might
the work.
be, and I don't think so. Yeah, I was like, it didn't impact me.
Yeah.
It ended. I knew it would be a cool discussion. There were cool facets of it. It didn't like offend me. I didn't feel like I wasted my time. It was a puzzle, and that's what happened. I felt like this, calamity and all,
Yeah.
could have had a fucking nice curlicue on it.
But if you take
and I don't
the,
think they did.
But if you take the solution, as it were, that they do give you, you and I don't exist right now. He's talking to this guy who's interviewing him. We simply exist in the mind of a little boy who is trying to make an impossible decision. I can look at that, and when that was stated on screen, I can look at that and I can stop the movie right there, walk away and go, that's enough. I'm good there. I'm good with that. Even if there's not 10 minutes after that I get treated to a whole nother unraveling, I'm good with that idea because it's satisfying to me.
that thought.
Which
is the way they ended Saint Elsewhere.
No, that was an autistic kid.
You fucking know what I'm saying. You know
I
what
know
I'm
what you're
saying.
saying.
And
but-
again,
Yeah. Well,
I don't-
let's not say this is not the first movie or the first story to ever, deal with this type of this all exists in the head of a little boy or anything like that.
I don't
I love that was
believe. I don't believe that divorce, which could be the catalyst for everything we saw. His dad is staying, his mom's going away in a train, and he doesn't know what to do. He runs towards the mom at the train, but his shoe falls off. So maybe he's stuck with dad. That means probably he decided. They show him be with mom and dad throughout this movie. But I guess in an instant,
Life with Dad was tough.
this all
Life with Dad was.
this all happened. And you know what? I'm just not there yet. I don't think there's enough out there to say that that's fucking believable. So it was cheap to me.
I gotcha.
Not to say that it's not true. There's a quantum me running around. There's someone out there still probably doing something in full faith that there's string theory going on.
Do you believe that?
I don't believe it. I don't need it to be true.
Well, I agree with you on that.
So-
I don't need it to be true, but if and when you ponder those things, do you go to like, I got no idea what the fuck is going on so much that, yeah, that could be.
I really don't. I don't think we're at a place to know that right now.
Yeah.
I think we'd be talking to one another.
Bring.
Yeah.
Hey, Kevin.
Speaking of, what was
Hey,
it?
George.
We were talking about Googling the recipe for making LSD, right?
Was that this podcast or was that the...
Which reminded me, this gave me a vibe of Johnny Dies at the end also. The quantum layering.
The quantum layering.
There was that going on.
Yeah.
To
well, and there's familiarities
John
with John Dies at the end.
Not Johnny Five.
Not Johnny
Dies
Five.
at the short
Chappie dies
on
at the
Olympic
end.
and Soto.
There's definitely familiarities. For some reason, when you mentioned Cloud Atlas, that certainly rang a bell in my head where I went, oh yeah, like even the stings with the score and this person shows up and the turnaround and also one thing I do, this movie's, it's melodramatic as hell. You know, like there's certainly things in this movie that are like, not that it's not well acted. Like I love Sarah Polley. I don't think she's in enough stuff. And I really like Jared Leto. I really dug the therapist too. Who I mean, even the little glimpses of Future World were cool. Like I love Mars. Like,
Yeah, they took us. One of the forks in the road was him ahead in the future, which.
Oh well, that's
maybe
another
didn't
thing.
Maybe didn't jive with
because he's writing
trying to live to be 118 because you already kind of got a future in there.
He's writing a story too. Like, and that's another Cloud Atlas thing is like he's writing a book that we end up seeing come to life. So where are we in that?
Right. So teenager Mr. Nobody, one of the forks in the road, the one when he's living with his father, writes Sci-Fi, and as he starts tapping these lines, he shows up in a sci-fi book, or a
reality.
And so another thing that happened is when really bad stuff happened, he said, "I got to change this," and he could go back and say a different one-liner. And I don't understand why Mr. Nobody got the privilege to be able to go back and take another fork in the road. They never really reveal how he had that, what I would call a gift.
Yeah.
Though it does mean you flip the coin again. Because sometimes writing that wrong set a whole other chain of events that was bad.
Yeah.
But looks like you got one rebate. Maybe even two. I don't know. And that... Again, that God power, if you will, as far as we can understand it at this point, I was like, why would he seemed more omniscient than the old man waiting to turn 118, and then to bring it all back and say this happened in the mind of a 9-year-old who's under stress. I mean, let's call it what really happened, a traumatic experience. So this movie says to me, Kev, you might want to believe that all this stuff could happen when something really bad happens to you. And in an instant. And so I kept coming back to the earth with it. Mm-hmm. Either that dude's a 118-year-old and he's not using his special rebate power anymore, or if this is like you said, this is the mind of a 9-year-old, then...
Well, I don't believe that it was the mind of a 9-year-old. Like that's not something that I walked away from the movie with. But
that's Mr. Nobody telling the tell.
I know, but I mean, I think that's something.
So he's not reliable.
Yeah.
Why?
Because he has no. I mean, he has no. The entire movie.
Is he not the 9-year-old?
No, he's not the 9-year-old.
He's not the boy.
No.
Who's the boy?
118-year-old?
Yeah.
No, he's not the boy.
It is chronologically. It matches up according to the dates.
Well, everything matches up according to the dates, though.
So he's the 9-year-old.
No, but I mean, what I'm saying is that even when they're on Mars, it's still before 2092. So the dates don't matter.
Yeah, I don't. I can't say what everything I'm saying tonight was popping up last night, but when I stopped to think about it, I'm like, I think that's why it didn't do much to me, because I was like, wrap it up, give me another 1,000 pages. I'll tell me the story.
Yeah. See, I didn't. I mean, I feel like I didn't want that. You know.
And so why is it? So Solaris, I'm okay with, like, it's open ended.
Right,
the Stalker,
and
so
I
for something about this format,
I came to Stalker with this. Like, I came to a level, and I wouldn't say that it affected me like Stalker did, but I came to that same level of, like, you know what? I don't need to know if they went into that room. What did they get when they got out of that room? What's gonna happen with the rest of these guys? What the fuck does that mean when, you know, she starts doing that at the end? It was sort of the same thing where I felt like I was given the adequate amount of data along with whatever my own emotional responses were to it, and I just, like you said, man, I got triggered. It just took me to a place I was certainly not expecting. Probably through most of the movie, for like, I spent the first half of this movie looking between, like, my sketch pad and the screen, you know, and then at a certain point it was just all screen. And then I was just in it, you know, and it was just kind of beat after beat of, like, yeah, I'm just jiving. And I guess it's like I'm turning pages, you know, like I'm just like, yeah, I'm into this now, you know.
Yeah, I was starting to think about other things that, is it my mood, what I ate, that makes me critical or not, that makes me take the meditation ride or not? Or is there a level of craft that opens it up or not? And that's where I wonder, for me, in my experience, when you give me a couple things rooted in, like this actually all happened at a train station, that I'm like, you know, what would have happened if you did not mention that? Would it have been as open-ended? Would I have had an experience like George? And when you decided to say this to us, did you put yourself in a league that might be different than others who've come before you?
And is that conversation right there? I mean, I think that's indicative of kind of the movie itself. You know, that we are Nemo. Nobody is essentially. He's made up of countless experiences over countless timelines and so it's not until that end when he starts to contract back that he starts to experience become one single person, you know, as all those things kind of come in together. So my response to this movie, like, had I watched this tonight, would it have been entirely different? You know, would it have been, you know, like,
well,
when I saw that it was 2 hours and 20 minutes,
yeah,
I went, fuck, man. I thought this was going to be
a busy dad doing Sci-Fi.
A breezy 90 minutes, man. What does Jared Leto got to say? And then when I saw, like, that the titles were in French, I was like, if this isn't fucking French, I swear to God, yeah, I'm going to call Kevin and tell him we're watching Orbiter 9.
And that's, by the way, Orbiter 9 popped up at the end, and I didn't read the synopsis when you said that. Where the hell did that come from? That might be good.
That looks cool. Yeah, it was. I just saw it on the, it gives you those percentage matches based on what you've watched on Netflix.
Mm-hmm.
And
you swiped left?
I swiped left. Well, you know what's funny?
Swipe white.
I don't know. Swipe white.
Swipe white.
Swipe white.
Swipe white. Friend of Sandy
Felons and Claude.
Claude
Atlas.
Claude Atlas here.
Well, you know what's funny is Orbiter 9 was like a 97% match. George, you might like this. Mr. Nobody was down in like the 60s.
Yep.
Yeah. And this was not a well-received movie either. It's got like
Go figure.
2 hours and 20 minutes.
That's what I'm saying, man.
Multiple Jared Letos.
Well, and one other thing that I think kept me out is he never looked totally right. The kids, the young boy, the 9-year-old, and the teenagers were believable. Whenever Jared Leto, he didn't ever look right. Whether he had he reminded me of how I'd look if you told me I had to be a professor in a play. Or a beatnik in a play. And what is up with a guy
I didn't buy him as the long-haired junkie. I was just like...
Exactly. And so that's where I'm saying, fuck that shit.
I'm like, that's not you, dude.
It comes to a point when it didn't let me in. Right. And I'm glad you got it. But, dude, when you make things, when you are a creator...
Yeah,
and you make decisions like this. I'll put this up there for you. Right,
he looked like he was an FBI agent.
That director had many choices he could have made.
Yeah,
and if he had flipped a fucking coin, he might have picked a different actor. But because he picked Jared Leto, and Jared Leto didn't look right in quotes to me, his movie didn't work on me.
It didn't work.
And if he had flipped a coin the other way, it might not have worked on you.
True.
But I'm telling you, it's not coin flips. It's decisions. It's physiology crackling through that person and their influence. And I want to say that this movie is lesser than other meditations. As a matter of fact, it kept me out of it. I
want to say I despite
dude. That's not
Kevin.
Stop.
You loved this movie. Say it,
man.
No.
I did not know you had anger issues.
I hope
How
I
are you
didn't
going to replace that?
Okay. All right. Yeah, we're all good. Look, man. I can't be
that was
held
my
accountable.
DVD copy of Mr. Nobody.
I can't be held accountable for my anger. Okay, especially when you're going to talk about Jared Leto this way. Is it Leto or Leto?
Wait, but didn't you think he was Succola in Blade Runner 69?
Blade Runner, yeah, he was. Yeah, that's funny. But no. Despite him looking like he was an FBI agent going to like a drug sting with the long hair and everything,
like his mustache was gonna fall off.
Like, someone's gonna be like,
so
"I'm pretty sure you're a cop."
Who fucking lets that dude do that?
Yeah.
It's like, that looked weird.
I bought
right?
him.
He looked weird.
He looked weird. Yeah, but I bought him as the TV show host, and I bought him as the scarred up, kind of semi-psycho, doing the slow stop motion of the decaying for the... I bought him in a lot of that stuff, but and I was kind of grateful that those scenes with him as like a Seattle grunge era Jared Leto, Nemo Nobody, long hair and goatee, that they were only like 3 or 4 scenes.
Or was that sanitized homelessness? See,
I don't know. Did he have a home? Because or is that her play? I'm pretty sure he had a home. They go back to an apartment and they screw.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah. And he had kind of a nice place, actually.
Something just for a pool cleaner.
Whatever the fuck he was doing. No, look,
So, he has a line, and one of them he goes, I work at a factory job for a doo-ba-doo-ba-doo. And if you had to mine this thing for message or content, you combine all this bleak shit, and then you have the guy give the typical, what it reminded me of Falling Down. Like, the guy just comes to fucking realize that he's wasted his life, and then I'm like, why?
I love that scene,
tell me that
because
shit.
he's talking to the bears at the zoo, and then he's talking to his wife. I loved that. I loved a lot of the things with him and his wife Elise. There was just things about this movie that landed for me. Things about relationships, things about being a little kid, things about love.
I'm dead inside, George. That's probably what it is.
That's why I threw my keyboard at you.
Yeah.
Kevin.
Wake up! Feel something!
Feel something, you robot!
This is not Stitches
Come on,
worthy, though.
chappy.
I'm gonna be okay.
So, I guess you should maybe just go home and watch Man from Earth Holocene.
Yeah. And just numb it all out. In 3 acts. Talk about bad costumes.
I don't age. It's 10 years later. I look 10 years older.
By the way, listener, it's still 9:58 and 49 seconds in the studio.
Well, thank God.
As it always is. 8:58, I'm sorry.
Once that clock hits 9, that's when the crunch starts. Mm-hmm. And then, Kevin...
Our abs look great.
Then, man...
It's crunch time!
It's crunch time, baby!
Work off this ice cream.
Oh, boy. I think I sweated most of it out. actually.
Yeah. It's warm in here.
It
Tony
is.
didn't get the AC fixed.
No, man. He said that the seltzer bill
He brought a
was through the
space
roof.
heater with the fan option on it.
Yes,
That was
yeah.
his AC. Just don't turn the heat on.
Yeah, did he said his payment to the Netflix account bounced. This came back, so I had to watch. He slipped a copy of Mr. Nobody under the door that had Russian subtitles on it.
Again.
Classic.
Yeah. Well, that guy.
Talk about Mr. Nobody.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, Tony.
What else you got, George? Hey, we're Busy Dads Do Sci-Fi.
Yeah, hey, drop us a line at busydadsdosci-fi@gmail.com. Let us know what you thought of Mr. Nobody.
Do they ever? Is there a quantum thread where like we have 50,000 listeners and a lot of email?
Yeah, I just don't have the password for that one.
Oh.
Mm-hmm.
You know what? Drive your car into the nearest lake,
And
and
then
maybe it'll come to you.
Official tell me it.
Yeah.
That's-
Maybe it'll come to you.
You can also follow us.
But
us
how do you
on
type?
blub, 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 blub. You can follow us on Twitter at Busy Dads Do Sci-Fi. You can follow us on Instagram at Busy Dads Do Sci-Fi. We usually have some funny stuff on there.
You can follow us in the mind of a 9-year-old boy.
You can follow us
Just don't.
through the streets of South Pasadena if you can find us.
The mean streets.
The mean streets. I am
South Pass.
once in a while, usually I'm at the Fair Oaks Pharmacy having ice cream. So if you creep up behind me, you can probably follow me home. I don't know. Jump in the back of my car or something like
And just
that.
bring a little more calamity into George's life, because nothing says I love string theory like you're on fire,
My
which
wife-
is called pulling a Ridley Scott.
My wife is on fire.
That's a Ridley
That's
Scott.
a Ridley Scott moment there. 2 times, Ridley. 2 times you got to set people on fire.
Can
You
we
and
set someone on
you and
fire?
Jaco von Doorbell ought to get together
Don Doorbell.
and figure out how to set blonde women on fire. All right, what else? What are you doing? You reading?
I am reading. I'm finishing Elysium Fire, the latest book in the Revelation space world, and I'm gonna start. I want to read. Jack Vandermeer is the guy who wrote Annihilation.
Oh,
And he's part of that new weird movement. And that's a trilogy, so I'm trying not to watch Annihilation because I think those reads have been recommended to me.
So you're gonna
And it's
watch-
called the Southern Reach Trilogy, which is just kind of cool.
You're gonna read Annihilation before you check out the movie.
Yeah,
All
I
right.
have to tell you that, George. Yeah. So,
Yeah, well, I
yeah.
I was trying to get it more condensed for the people who've already stopped paying
Glazed
attention
over?
when you started talking. But
reading. It's
um,
not just for studying anymore.
We've got there's a Lost in Space remake on Netflix right now.
Yeah. Lost in Space was a television show,
Yeah.
so they're making. Is it one episode or is it just
No,
one
it's
movie?
a series.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I want to check
You
that
ever read
out.
the Southwest Airlines magazine? Speaking of reading,
Is this
that's because that's when I read.
is this a Lost in Space thing we're talking
I
about
don't
here? Or
know.
did you just
I'm
go
just
off
still
on
remembering.
Southwest?
I'm remembering what you're reading for. What you reading for? What do you mean? What am I reading
am-
for? What do you mean? What am I reading for?
What are you reading,
Why
5?
you gotta ask me? What are you reading, 5?
What are you reading,
Nothing.
6? Nothing.
Where's my chappy?
Yeah, Chappy. Phone home.
We
Hey, real quick. The pigeon in the beginning of the movie.
yeah.
What do you think that meant?
That meant you can move the box around to get the prize. What do you think it meant?
I thought it was just a cute story about a pigeon.
You lie. It's that was intentional.
Of course, everything was.
Pigeon
Yeah.
nudging the box. So we're a
not
biological
not
creature.
liking the movie was intentional. Von
Total
Doorbell
setup.
had
Von
it.
Doorbell.
He got you. You didn't
Yeah.
even know it.
Von Doorbell.
All right. See, this podcast began with a
Roar.
angry sound. No, wait. With an angry sound and a point. So let's end it with an angry sound and a point.
Point. Oh, yeah. Yeah, that's... Yeah.